Thank you, Eduardo, and thank you all for being here. We're going to be talking tonight about the subject reincarnation strengthens family ties, and a single life would destroy them. So let's go ahead. This is, of course, going to be based on the gospel according to Spiritism, as codified by our friend Alan Kardec. And as we know, our gospel according to Spiritism was codified by him. And tonight we're going to be discussing Chapter 4, Item 18. There we go. Which Chapter 4 is titled, No One Can See the Kingdom of Heaven Unless He is Born Again. So we're going to be talking about reincarnation, and specifically Item 18 in Chapter 4. So let's talk a little bit about Item 18. I've kind of condensed it down to the highlights here. Okay, so family ties are not destroyed through reincarnation as many people might think. On the contrary, those ties are strengthened and they become stronger and closer and more meaningful as we reincarnate and then disincarnate to go back into the spirit realm. And we'll talk a little bit later about how this happens. How do we get closer? In space, spirit entities form groups or families bound together by affection, sympathy toward each other, and by similar inclinations, similar tendencies. Incarnate life separates them only for a little while. So on returning to the spirit realm, they again reunite as friends who have just returned from a journey. And as we know, in our study of Spiritism, we learn, especially from the Spirit's book, that the concept of time as we know it here on earth is very different from what it is in the spirit realm. Suppose we're here on earth for, maybe 100 years, and then our physical body dies and we leave it and we go back to the spirit realm. We may not even think 100 years has passed. It may seem like only a short time to us. So the concept of time is different for spirits in the spirit realm than it is for those of us who are embodied here on earth. Incarnate life separates them. Let me go back, sorry about that. Incarnate life separates them only for a while. So on returning to the spiritual world, they again reunite as friends who have just returned from a journey. Okay, going on now with Chapter 18. Frequently, these spirits will even follow each other into the incarnate life, coming here to be reunited in the same family or the same circle of friends and acquaintances in order to work together for their mutual progress. When some members of the same spiritual family become incarnate and others do not, they then continue their contact by means of thought. And here's where I wanted to refer back to Melissa's presentation. If you saw that a couple of weeks ago, this is where sleep comes in. When we sleep, we leave our bodies and we go and we reunite with our friends in the spirit world. So sleep is very important in that way. And we are also able to communicate with those spirits by means of thoughts. Those who are free watch over those who are captive, and those who are more advanced do everything they can to help those who need to advance, so helping them to progress. Now, when we say we're talking about free and captive, what that refers to is when we're free, we are just our spirit in the spirit realm. That's our true home and our true self. When we are captive or prisoner, that means we are embodied in our physical body here on earth. So that's what those two words kind of refer to there. Continuing on in Item 18, after each physical existence, All of these spirits have made some sort of progress, whether it be just a small step forward or no. And in some cases, you may have an entire reincarnation where you don't progress at all. But as we know, as spiritists, we don't move backward. We'll always be moving forward. And the chances are that if we have reincarnated several times, we're going to be learning something each time. So as they become less bound by matter, their affections become more real and more spiritually refined due to the fact that they're not burdened by selfish or violent passions. This then allows them to live many lives in the flesh without suffering any loss of spiritual esteem, mutual esteem toward the spirits that we have affinity for. Now, it is understood, of course, that we refer to real affection, soul to soul, being the only love which survives after the destruction of the body. So, when we're talking spirits, the body is gone. It is just a vessel for our spirit while we're here on earth learning, as we are in our planet of trials and expiations. All right, and item 18 does continue. The only lasting relationships are those linked by spiritual affection. All carnal affections being extinguished together with the cause that brought them together, which is being in the physical body. Now, understand by this that the physical cause no longer exists in the world of spirits, but the soul exists eternally. So the body dies, and we leave it behind, and our spirit is eternal, immortal, and we will more than likely reincarnate again. With regard to those who join together exclusively out of self-interest, they clearly mean nothing to each other. Death separates them both on earth and in heaven. When it says they're joined by interest, that means self-interest or selfishness. For example, if you are just using somebody to get ahead because they have connections, something like that, just to fulfill your own ambitions. Yeah, you may be fond of that person, and you may like that person, but this is not a real spiritual connection. So as we reincarnate over many times, we learn and we grow, and this is how we become closer to those that we love and have an affinity with, because they also are reincarnating at times probably, and they're also growing. So we can come back together in the spirit realm and share our experiences, and we can be even closer to each other that way. So through reincarnation, spirits are united by ties of mutual affection, which become closer with each new incarnation. Are we beginning to see how that works? It's all a process of evolution and learning. And that's why it is so important for us to reincarnate here on this planet of trials and expiations, so that we do have time to learn and grow and become more spiritually evolved. So, how do spirits relate to each other in the spiritual life? What's going on up there in the spiritual realm? How do we get together? How do we find each other again? Well, here's kind of how it works. They can form groups or families intertwined by love and affection. And when we say families, in this case, we mean a spiritual family, which we'll talk more about in a little bit. They're also linked by sympathy and by the similarity of their tendencies. And they enjoy the sublime happiness of being together and sharing new experiences, as I mentioned before. When you reincarnate, you learn and you grow, and the people that you love may be doing the same thing. And when you meet again in the spirit realm and find each other, you form a spiritual family. Not a family like we're talking about here on earth, a mother, a father, and children. This is more a spiritual family where we're all brothers and sisters. So, and we'll talk about that more in a minute too. So those are some of the ways that we form groups of people, groups of spirits who have similar tendencies and affections toward each other. Through the principle of reincarnation, spirits are united on earth and during their time in the spirit realm by ties of mutual affection. These ties become closer and less linked to material concerns with each new incarnation. And that's the trick, isn't it? The trick is to be able to let those material things on earth take their proper place. Yes, we're here incarnated on earth, and we have to use material things. We have to have material things. We have to have these physical bodies. But we need to give the proper value to those things and not overvalue material things. And the less we value the material things or give them their proper value, the more we can think about our spiritual life and our spiritual concerns. So what happens to these spirits when a new incarnation takes them back to the material world? Are we separated from the others that we have such an affinity with in the spiritual world? Well, some remain behind, some remain briefly separated, searching for each other again in the state of eroticity as friends returning from a trip. Others gather in new incarnations, existing in the same circle of friends or in the same family, to work together for their mutual advancement. Okay, so going back to that first one there where it talks about eroticity. When we disincarnate, there is a time where we are wandering before we reach back to the spiritual realm. Somebody correct me if this is wrong, because this is kind of a hard word. When you look it up online, you're not going to find it unless you put it in a spiritist context. So it's very much a spiritist word. But it means that when we discarnate and go back to the spiritual realm, there is a time of what is called eroticity or wandering, where we are seeking out those family groups that we left behind. And eventually we will find them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. If some return to the physical life and others do not, it does not mean that they cease to be united by sentiment. Those who remain free and help and watch for those who are in captivity, which we talked about a minute ago. So our birds in the air there represent the ones who are discarnate, and the spirits who are watching over our little birds on the ground there who are embodied here on the earth. And so we can still have contact with those spirits with whom we have affinity through our thoughts when we sleep, and we are to know that they are watching over us. So how does the affection among spirits become stronger with each incarnation? Well, with each incarnation or new existence, the spirits reach a better level of understanding, becoming progressively less bound to matter or material things. Without the interference of selfishness and passion, the affection that unites them becomes more true and real. So this is saying that the less bound we are to material things, the more we can cultivate our spiritual and moral side. And this helps us to become closer to those who are essentially doing the same thing. When they reincarnate, they go through the same thing that we do. And when we reunite in the spirit realm, we have new experiences to share with each other, and this deepens our relationship to each other. And it makes it more real and more spiritual, which is what we want. Spirits can, therefore, pass through an unlimited number of reincarnations without receiving any damage to the mutual esteem that unites them. No matter how long we feel we are apart, And I'm sure the time would seem to vary between those of us who are incarnate and the ones who are in the spiritual realm. No matter how long we may be separated, we will always be able to find each other when we go back to the spirit realm and rejoin those whom we love. So what's the difference then between spiritual affection and carnal or physical affection? Well, we'll talk about the spiritual affection first. Spiritual affection is the kind of affection that truly connects souls. As it said earlier, it said something that I like, soul to soul, or spirit to spirit. It is the only kind of affection that survives the destruction of the physical body, or the death of the physical body. So that's very important to note that the spiritual part of us is the only part that survives and keeps going. As we said before, it's immortal. Now, what about physical affection and carnal affection? How does that figure in? Well, it's not that important, actually. Carnal affection unites souls through physical feelings, which disappear with the physical body. I've heard other people who've given presentations talk about this, how when we are in the spirit realm, there's no distinction between the sexes. We're, as you might say, sexless. There are no females and males and things like that. So that it takes on less meaning when we're in the spirit realm, because we are all brothers and sisters, no matter what sex we may have been when we were incarnate on earth. So that ceases to be an important factor when we're in the spirit realm. So in the spirit world, do the connections based on material interest remain? And we already know the answer to this because they answered it just a little bit ago. No. Nothing of the physical world remains. It is merely our spirit. People who are united by ties of material interest, be they of any kind at all, have nothing to do with each other. These interests only act as instruments to satisfy their ambitions. In other words, selfishness. Those kinds of relationships based only upon material things or have the pride and the selfishness going on, and we know that that's not good, and that is not a true way of connecting spirits. So those types of things will cease to matter in the spirit world. Once you return to the spirit world, that kind of relationship is not going to be found there. So they won't rejoin necessarily. It's only if we have that spiritual connection besides the material things. Such interests do not survive the physical life. And that's a very important point in this presentation. Material things, material interests, and relationships based only on material things will not survive the death of the physical body because they become totally unimportant in the in the spiritual realm. Those who are connected by material interests do not mean anything to each other. Death will separate them either on earth or in heaven. So this is an interesting one, and you all will relate to this. Why, for no apparent reason, do we sympathize with or dislike certain people, even family members? Now, how many of you have ever met someone that you just instinctively like them right off the bat? Yeah. And how many of us have met someone that we go, oh, I don't think this is someone that I want to be associated with, and you don't like them. Yeah. And of course that doesn't mean that we can't help them. We don't have to be in their presence to help them. We can always pray for that person. But we all have been through that experience. Either we we have immediately connected with someone or immediately been repelled by someone. And why is this? Well, it has to do with our past lives, doesn't it? These feelings can reveal sympathies of past lives or past quarrels and disagreements. And this happens a lot in families, right? You don't like your dad and you like your mom, and this sister gets on your nerves, but that one you got your simpatico with. These things happen all the time. And we just need to remember as spiritists that eventually, when we return to the spirit realm, we are going to reconnect with those with whom we have true mutual affection. And the physical bodies, the physical traits of these people will not matter anymore. So let us make this incarnation an opportunity to strengthen the ties of friendship and repair misunderstandings and animosity. That's saying to us that we should not put things off till the next incarnation, right? We should go ahead and do the best that we can and the most that we can to progress while we are here on earth in this particular incarnation. And as I said, if we have people that we have felt animosity toward, this is an opportunity for us to work on getting over that, getting beyond that. So it's very important that we attune ourselves to these things and make ourselves aware, hey, this is something I need to work on. So do we have several different fathers and mothers in the spiritual life? Now, I know I had trouble with this concept when I first started reading about it, and when I first came to Spiritism. It would kind of make sense that if you had your father and mother here, you reincarnated, and then you came back again, you had another different father and mother, but that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. So how does it work? Well, no, we don't have 10 fathers and 10 mothers in the spiritual world. Blood ties disappear with the flesh. There, we're all brothers and sisters. No mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers. We're all brothers and sisters together. And if we had a particular affection toward one of our parents when we were incarnated, then we'll find that person again. And that person will be our brother or our sister, spiritually speaking. The fact that a man had 10 incarnations does not mean that it will follow that he will still find in the spirit world 10 fathers and 10 mothers. There, the spirit will always find those who were the recipients of his affection. We'll always go back to and reassociate ourselves with those who we loved and who we love as spiritually speaking. These are the real connections that we will have with others. So what is the big lesson that we take away from this today, from this item 18 in the gospel? Well, the lesson we may take away from today's discussion is that reincarnation provides us the continuity of living with those we love, and that nothing, not even death, can separate those who are united by sincere affection. This is one of the things that I love most about Spiritism, is that it gives me hope that I will be able to reunite with the people that I truly have had a spiritual connection with. And we can all do that. That's something that reincarnation allows us to do. Through reincarnation, we grow and we learn, we become better spirits, and we're always able to reconnect with those in the spirit realm whom we have had sincere affection for. In the physical and spiritual planes, love binds beings by indissoluble bonds, which become stronger with each new incarnation, because we have grown during each incarnation, hopefully. So, in conclusion, Chapter 4, Item 18, reincarnation strengthens family ties. And by now we know that doesn't mean the family that we have on earth, the mother, father, sister, brother. This means our spiritual family ties. Neither sensual feelings nor the passion of material interests binds spirits. Only a sincere affection binds them together, either on earth or in heaven. So that's one good thing that we can take away from today's lesson, is that we will have the opportunity to reunite with those with whom we had sincere affection during our past lives. And this is something that, as Spiritists, we really can look forward to. I would encourage you to go home and look at your Gospel, chapter 4. It's a very interesting chapter, and it talks about reincarnation. If you study your Gospel at home, that's a really good chapter to read. I invite you also to visit our SSD website, www.ssdallas.org. There's a lot of good information on there for you that you can, and about our activities and so forth as well. So I hope you'll visit the website. There's a Portuguese website and the English website. It's all on the same one. You just click on your flag to go to the English or the Portuguese. Does anybody have anything they want to add or any questions about reincarnation? Okay, thank you all so much again for allowing me to speak with you about an important subject of Spiritism. And I appreciate your being here tonight, and I hope to get to do another lesson soon. Thank you.